14 yıldan uzun bir süredir eğitim ve teknoloji firmalarında eğitimin farklı alanlarına yönelik deneyim bulunmakta. Şu anda Londra'da görevini sürdürüyor. Coursera öncesinde Türkiye'de Blackboard Türkiye, Kara Tahta Türkiye ve CIS bölgelerinin satış direktörlüğü görevinden sorumluymuş. Öncesinde Enok'ta İş Geliştirme Müdürlüğü ve uzun yıllar Macro Education Türkiye ve Kuzey Kıbrıs Türkiye sorumlusu olarak çalışmış. Sevcan'ın yüksek öğretim sektöründeki öğrencilerin ve öğretim üyelerinin en iyi donanıma sahip olmalarını ve geleceğin beceri ve gereksinimlerini karşılamaya hazır olmalarını sağlamak için Coursera'yı Türkiye, Kıbrıs, Malta ve Yunanistan bölgelerinde genişletmeye odaklanmış durumda. Başkent Üniversitesi'nden MBA derecesi var. Profesyonel yetkinlikleri arasında dijital pazarlama uzmanlığı bulunmakta. Hayat boyu öğrenmenin önemine inandığı için de eğitime olan tutkusunu sürdürmekte Sevcan Hanım. Samar Hanım'la ilgili bağlantı sorunumuz sanıyorum çözülemedi. Hala
Evet.
görmüyorum kendisini.
Evet, maalesef. Ben şu an Uzem ekibine de bir mail attım ama zannediyorum iletişime geçebilirlerse aslında Samar Hanım'la en kısa zamanda o katılabilir. Bu arada...
Merhabalar, hoş geldiniz.
Merhabalar.
Çağrı yolladıklarını söylüyorlar ama bağlantıdan önce bir sıkıntı yokmuş.
Evet.
Dün yaptınız zaten. Kendi bilgisayarında mı var acaba? Mesaj attılar şu anda.
Tamam.
Siz başlayın isterseniz. Daha sonra o
öyle yapalım. Aynen öyle yapalım hocam. Ben tabii bir sunum paylaşacağım. Öncelikle çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sizleri duyabiliyor musunuz?
Geldi sanırım. Geldi Samar Hanım. Mesaj attı. Hi dedi.
Evet.
Mesaj attı.
So, hello Samar. Welcome.
Hi, Samar.
Is it possible you to... Yes. So,
hi.
Very well.
Nice to meet you all.
So, I will try to introduce you to our audience, and then Sevcan has said that your schedule was arranged that you were going to start, and then Sevcan will take the microphone. So let me try to introduce you as well. Dr. Samar Farah is a skills transformation consultant focused on Coursera for campus in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Prior to Coursera, she spent over 10 years working in education research and programming in non-governmental organizations. Most recently, Samar was the Director of Research and Innovation at the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation for Education, where she launched a scholarship program for underserved Arab youth, led research activities, and built a portfolio of projects in the field of online learning with universities across the Arab region. Among other activities, of course, and Samar holds a PhD degree on international education development from Columbia University. So the screen is yours, I mean, both of you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to be here with you today. I had to move places because my battery was dying, so I apologize that I was off screen for a little while. So thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's lovely to be here with you all. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation, and I hope it will be useful to you. So what I'd like to spend some time talking to you today about is really given the focus on employability and thinking about, the opportunities for our youth in the future. First of all, I wanted to share just a few trends that we're seeing at Coursera when it comes to skills development. What are some of the big picture things that we're seeing that are shifting in terms of the way the world of work is changing? And then I wanted to talk a little bit about why it's important to think about skills for us as educators and people that are involved in higher education, supporting young people. And then what are a few of the different ways in which we at Coursera are supporting skills development that might help to give you some ideas around how best to support young people, how to guide them, but also how to kind of support our own work as well. So I hope this sounds like a good plan. Please feel free to use the chat as much as you want to share any questions. Feel free to do that in Turkish, and I sincerely apologize that I can't speak in your language. I will try and speak a little bit slower so that everyone's able to follow. And if there's any questions or you need translation, Sevcan, I will offer Sevcan's support to do this with me. Okay, so just give me a moment so I can share my screen. Okay. There we go. Okay. I hope you're able to see this. Okay. So one of the main trends that we've seen, and I'm sure you see this probably even more noticeably than we do, is that there has been a very quick growth when it comes to digital jobs. You know, the world is obviously changing very quickly. And because of COVID, this happened at a much faster pace than it typically would have happened before. Now, you know, there's a lot of different job opportunities that are emerging, but what we're seeing is that the vast majority of jobs that are coming up in the future are in the space of digital work. And so what you see on the left-hand side is that 98 out of 100, almost 150 million jobs are in software development. A lot of them are in cloud and data analysis, machine learning, cybersecurity, and many others. And in the past, these were very kind of unique jobs in IT companies and things like that. But really what we're starting to see is that it's starting to penetrate or affect all the more traditional industries as well. Things like education, like tourism and healthcare. You know, in higher education specifically, we do see a lot of, you know, work that's focused on the cloud, where we save all our information, all our data on the cloud. There's a lot of AI tools that are being used to support student learning, to guide them, or chatbots to interact with students when they're enrolling in university. And so you see so many different uses of all these different technologies across a lot of industries. And what that means is that as young people are starting to enter the workplace, they need to be equipped to at least understand what these technologies mean and what the impact they will have on the workplace. Now, ideally, you'd want them to also be familiar with them and to be able to interact with them in the workplace. Some other research that we've been involved in with the World Economic Forum, because we really spend a lot of time thinking about skills very deeply, is really trying to map what are the most in-demand kind of jobs that are going to be coming up, and the kind of professions that are going to be in kind of greatest growth. And so some of those are require digital skills, you know, as you see, a lot of the same topics, but also there's other ones like marketing, like content production, like the care economy, which is focused on health, and others where you will still need digital skills because a lot of this is happening online as well. But you do see things like people and culture, which covers education, which covers arts and things like that, all require some component of, you know, a digital literacy and skill. And on the other hand, you know, you will still see kind of the biggest jobs, the most popular ones are in those kind of core technical space. Having said that, digital skills alone are not sufficient. And we hear that all the time from employers. You know, as you can see here, this is based on a survey that was conducted with thousands of employers in 2020 to identify what are the most in-demand skills that are needed. And you'll see that technology only comes in at number 7 and 8. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not needed, but it also means that a lot of the soft skills are really just as important, and we can't forget them. You know, students need to be able to be prepared to transition to this kind of, you know, professional life, and be equipped with everything that they need to do that effectively. And giving them the opportunity to develop these skills in university is really crucial. Some of them can be learned through practice, but others can also be learned through courses that they complete, you know, at the university or with other engagements, or with things like internships and work experiences. So why is it important to think about skills, and why do we at Coursera really spend so much time talking about that? I mean, my title is a skills transformation consultant. So one of the big trends that we've been seeing over the last few years, and I'd say particularly more in the West, but I think these trends are starting to spread more globally to other markets as well, is that employers are starting to recognize and value kind of skills and skills development beyond just traditional degrees. So in the past and in many places, you would need to show that you have a bachelor's degree in something or a master's degree in something, and then they'd ask about other kind of things that you can do. Whereas now, a lot of employers at some of the big companies like Google and Netflix and others have actually announced very publicly that they will not require this kind of information. They won't require you to have a degree. And in fact, what is more important is that you can do the job that they want you to do. So you have the skill set that's needed to do that. Whether you've done a degree or not is less important to them. And another trend that we're seeing is that when you get and collect certificates from places like Coursera or other platforms, any micro credential or even an industry certificate, it's starting to be recognized as being something valuable and not something that they can't trust. So it's also important to realize that the world is shifting, especially with COVID. There's a greater recognition of the importance of these skills. Now at Coursera, we track skills at a detailed level. So when a learner comes to our platform and takes a course, we don't just see what grades they got in the various quizzes and the exams. We also track what skills they're developing. And we are able to do that at a detailed level where we kind of see their skills across 4 different proficiencies. So we see we call it like a pre-beginner level, to beginner, to intermediate, and advanced. So as a student is progressing through a course or even through a set of courses that they're doing, we can see their progress in developing that skill as they go along. So what that means is that we really are able to, to really track how people are doing, compare them to each other, how skilled someone is versus somebody else. And because we also serve a lot of companies, we serve almost 3,000 companies, we're able to see, what roles people are in and what skills they're developing for these roles. So it allows us to really plan into the future and give guidance on what are the skills that are needed for which job roles, and then what content should you be taking to develop these skills. So really, that's the way we think about our platform and the opportunities. It allows us to really identify what are the skills that are needed in the future and how to prepare for these kinds of jobs. And to do that, we have different forms of content. I won't spend too much time here. The idea is that you've got your typical courses, which everyone expects that we would offer, but we also have longer form content that we source either from industry partners or from universities, as well as shorter form content, which is focused on projects. And these are really focused on kind of developing these hands-on experiences. And we hear this all the time, where employers say, the students graduate and they don't have the practical experiences that they need to, be able to come and do the work. We need to train them up a lot. So we introduce those projects to really help with their ability to adjust and to be able to be more prepared when they go into the workplace. And here's just an example of what these guided projects look like. So what you see here is really a learner accesses a virtual machine. It would happen typically through our platform. On the left-hand side is the learner screen. So they log in to access a specific software or a tool online. This is a data visualization tool called Tableau. And then on the right-hand side is the instructor. There's an audio recording of them explaining to the student what to do with the same screen, so that the student can really follow exactly what the teacher tells them to do, and they can complete the task in a very short period of time. So they become familiar with the platform, they get to do the task, And then the next time they see it, it becomes a lot easier for them to do that. So that's really the concept around the guided projects. Now, also from an infrastructure perspective and from kind of a resource perspective, it really reduces the workload on everyone because you don't need to download the tools, you don't need to upload any data. It all makes it very, very smooth and quick. And here are just some examples of the different types of guided projects we have. Obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of them are for the technical skills like programming languages or, or data analysis, but you really see that we've also cover a lot of other topics, including business and IT and education, personal development. You can even use it to, we have some guided projects on how to use the LinkedIn platform to kind of position yourself as a new graduate and to develop your profile so it looks professional. So all kinds of really random kind of skills that are really important for someone when they're transitioning to work. And I mentioned some of our longer form content, which are our certificates, and these are offered by our industry partners. And what we tried to do here is where we mapped out for some of these key job roles that, that we know are coming up in the future, especially for introductory job roles, for a fresh graduate coming out of university. These are a lot of the typical job roles that they would be taking. So what we tried to map out is roughly how long it takes for a student or for any person to develop the skill set for this specific job role based on the certificates that we have that train someone up from start to finish to do this job effectively. So these are just some examples of the certificates we have, and then the time that one needs to allocate to be able to gain that certificate, but also prepare for this job role. So this is just to give a sense of how long it takes to develop this additional skill set, but also if we're thinking about lifelong learning, which is another theme of the session, is for people who may have been working for many years but want to reskill, the job that they were in before is no longer relevant. They want to start something fresh, start a new career. These are a great opportunity for someone to do that because they take you from the beginning. Even though they're technical, they're meant to be not have any prerequisites. And if we take a closer look at just one example of those, for example, data and AI, we know that this is a very hot topic. Here, just again, some analysis that we've run where we looked at all the individual skills that are needed to be an effective data analyst. So you've got all the various skills like statistical programming, math, data management, and so on. And it also shows you the proficiency level that you need in each of these different skills to be effective in this kind of a role. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the kinds of certificates that we have that would be able to support someone in developing those skills. And if you click on this, what you see is not just, it's one thing to know, okay, this is the role that I can pursue and I know that it's in demand, but it's also important for an individual to know where they can go from there. What are my opportunities for growth in my career? And what you can see is from a data analyst, you can go into a lot of different routes and pathways for careers. You can become much more specialized and become a data engineer, a data scientist, an AI specialist, and many other things. So it just kind of, these are the kinds of things that we spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to support institutions with, because we really know that the big gap, between higher education and the world of work is really not having clarity around, how does a student get to where they want to get to, and how do we figure out that pathway and make it easier for them. So I just showed you one way in which we think about and we offer students to develop some of these skills that they need to bridge the gap between higher education and work. And here's another kind of offering that we have where we also drew on all the data that we have from our work with employers to really provide like a clear pathway for someone to go into a role. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize that it's also focused on data. We have a lot of other topics, but I just happened to pick the data role. So I apologize that it doesn't feel relevant for everyone in the conversation. So say somebody, a student hears a lot about data scientists. So, you know, they say, okay, I'd like to, you know, maybe be a data scientist, but I don't know what that means. You know, how am I supposed to know what a data scientist does? No one in my family does it. I don't know anyone, you know, in school, my faculty don't do it. So what this would offer them is they would have a description of what that role involves. And then on the right-hand side, they would see the list of all the skills that are needed for that role, a bit similar to what I just showed you. And then what they would also see are these stars, which show them the targets that they would need to achieve in terms of proficiency for each of these skills. So they would know, you know, how, you know, where they need to get to in order to get to this kind of skill level. And I'll just go in here. So this really gives them a lot of motivation as they're going through the content, because as you see, they start to see their progress and the line starts to get closer to the star. As they start to consume the content and they start to do assessments, they see their skill score go up. And so this really can be really helpful to them because they don't actually have to wait till they complete a course to see their skill score go up. They can just do an assessment within a course and they start to see it move. And so what they want to do is obviously achieve all these targets for all these skills. And they can do that through the selection of courses that are recommended to them at the bottom. So for each of these skills, they have a set of courses recommended that will be at the level of proficiency that they are at. So if someone's a beginner in math, you know, they don't have any skills in that area, the courses that they will see will be a beginner level. This is kind of based on our machine learning algorithm. It will adjust these recommendations. If someone's doing probability and statistics and they've already progressed significantly, they're probably, you know, getting close to intermediate, those courses will be adjusted and they'll be a little bit harder so that it aligns with their level. So that's really the model that we've got with what we call skill sets here. And we've got about 300 of them, and they span across kind of 5 big topic areas. So data and analytics is one of them, finance, technology, marketing, and leadership. So that's really the way we think about it. Now, what's great, I should also add that there's a very kind of hands-on learning experience component where you have guided projects included as well. So you're not just doing the theory, but you're also doing the practical application through the guided projects. From an administrative perspective for, you know, administrators and faculty and leadership, it also gives you an opportunity to track their progress, you know, see how they're doing across all these different skills, see where some students might require some support or guidance, how many are below the target, how many are above the target, and really give you a sense of how they compare to each other as well. So that's really kind of an important piece from an administrator's perspective, because you're able to really see what the outcomes are, and you can measure and benchmark their performance over time. Now, you may wonder, well, this is great, but how do you know what's my level? You know, I come into the skill set and maybe I've already done a bit of data visualization. I don't want to have to start from the beginning and develop all these skills. Well, what we've developed was actually a set of assessments for each of these individual skills in a skill set, where you do a set of 19 questions on that topic. And upon completing the assessment, it will adjust your proficiency level based on the result of your assessment. So you don't have to start from the beginning, and the content will be at, you know, the appropriate level for you from the beginning. So that really allows a very personalized experience in pursuing any of these skill sets and feeling like it's kind of quite customized by individual. So that's really, you know, in a nutshell, I just wanted to share some of these ideas of how we at Coursera are thinking about skills and how we're developing them, just to you know, raise some discussions and hear about, you know, how you're thinking about it, and address any questions that you might have. So I'll pause here and open up the floor for questions or any comments from you all.
Do we have any questions for Samar? Gamze Hocam, please go ahead.
I would like to thank you, Samar, for very nice presentation. Also, don't worry about your data analysis because I'm a mathematician.
Perfect.
Your presentation is very useful for us.
Great.
Thank you very much. I hope this will be some, mood for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. That's very helpful.
And Gamze Hocam, I remember in your opening speech, you mentioned that almost 800 of our students have already attended.
Correct. Yeah, because we are using the basic program for Coursera program. Maybe Sevcan will give more detail about it. Yeah, now we got some information, some statistical data, and I just presented this morning. I presented this data to you. We see that the students are willing to attend to more digital skills courses. And what you said actually, and actually sometimes I am just asking this question to myself. Maybe this generation is guiding us, not we are guiding them. This generation is guiding us, and we are just trying to adjust ourselves to them. Because I remember last semester also they took the statistics and probability classes. We discussed these courses in our department. So densely, and finally we decided to put these courses in our schedule, but our students have already taken these courses from the Coursera, and this gives me motivation that I think this generation is guiding for us, not we are guiding.
Not the opposite.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. Yeah, thank you. It's true because we are able to see data on what learners in every country are learning on our platform. And it's very evident when you look at the top 10 courses, for example, they're always the tech courses. They recognize that these are the skills that they need. This is where the world is going. And sometimes this is where, they have gaps in their, in their skills. And so I think that's really, as you said, a good reflection that they're aware of the reality and they know that they need to equip themselves, which makes it a lot easier because really then it's just a matter of providing them the opportunity to do that so that they can make the most out of that. So I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Samar. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Thank you so much for having me again.
Wait a second. We've got another question or comment. I don't know, but Sajda Hocam, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farah. I have a very short question. You mentioned about the guided projects. What are the sources of these projects? For example, are they coming from industry or from employers, or are they generated by some sort of algorithms?
So if you're referring to who actually creates them, is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, what is the link between the reality and the data in the project? Let's say.
So the projects are typically designed by a subject matter expert. It could be someone in industry. It could be a faculty member. It could be, just a professional who is familiar with a software and wants to share that information. So we source the content from individuals, sometimes through our content partners or our industry partners, someone who has expertise in a particular software or a tool, and they would like to share that experience with learners on our platform. So as I said, this can be, teaching someone how to do pivot tables on Excel, or it could be teaching them how to use a specific project management tool, or for educators, actually for faculty members, we've got there's a lot of tools that can be used for classroom management in an online environment, or how to poll students in an online environment to keep them engaged. So there's different subject matter experts that would record these in advance. There would be an audio recording that they would video, and then they would make it available through our platform asynchronously for students to consume. Now, I should say that our guided projects are designed to also be where our educational partners, so any of our partners across the region, can create them themselves. So we do see faculty members at universities creating their own guided projects for their students. So if there are specific tools that they use or software that they're using, in specific courses that are not available from our guided projects, the faculty can create them themselves. And what's really good about starting with that instead of designing a full course is that actually the resources that you require to do that are much more limited, much more limited, because it's just an audio recording. You don't need good quality, video kind of materials. You don't need a special room for it. You can just do it at, anywhere. And because it's short, it's also manageable for a faculty member to allocate that time to record it. So that's something that we're seeing to be quite popular also for people to create their own.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And yeah, Atakan Hocam.
Hello, thank you for this nice presentation. My question could be considered as a nice follow-up to the previous one. So I had experience with Coursera platforms. I took some programming courses and it was tremendously helpful for getting me kind of off the ground. But one thing that I realized in my own experience is I learned all these great things, but if I don't end up using them immediately, they don't stick for a long time. So my question has to do with how can Coursera or platforms like this can mitigate this problem? Do you see kind of a maybe project-based transitions from a theoretical kind of a training starting point into something more industry, and that could be kind of where the lines between the industry and the training can get blurred for in a good sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. And it is true. I mean, all the research about learning science says that if you don't apply your learning, it goes away. I think it applies for everything, right? What we learn in university, what we learn at work, and so on. There's a few things that I can say about that. So one thing is, I mentioned our longer form content. So we have our industry certificates, which I've talked about, but we also have specializations, which are usually offered by our university partners. And these are a collection of courses that follow along from each other. And usually the last one is essentially an application of everything that was covered in the previous courses. So it is a bit structured like a project. So I think something like that can be a useful way to reinforce the learning in what was previously done. When we talk about our partnerships with the universities, we do see, for example, some universities when students are, learning on Coursera as part of their structured learning in the classroom as well, the faculty members can introduce projects that the students do. For example, there's a university that we work closely with in Morocco that does like a first year engineering project for all their students, where they have to work on a real life project. They bring in industry that talk about the challenges they're facing in their industry. The students have to come up with a solution in teams, and they use Coursera to kind of figure out what the solution might be, because they have to use a lot of kind of disciplines to figure that out. And so it's a great way to incorporate the learning and then to apply it in those kinds of projects. So I think that's really where, universities can think about how to structure that. In terms of Coursera, I guess if someone's already in the workplace and applying their learning directly, that probably is helpful. But I think when a student is in a university, I don't know, I think there's only so much that the platform can offer, at scale. So besides the specializations that I mentioned and the guided projects, I think then it's a matter of the ecosystem figuring out how to support the students in applying that learning. But it's a very good point. I agree with you.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Okay. As far as I can see, we've got no more questions. And I'd like to give our screens to Sevcan Hanım.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Samar. I think she is leaving. Çok teşekkürler Canan Hanım ve çok teşekkür ediyorum Gamze hocamıza. Bugün sizlerle bir araya gelmek gerçekten çok güzel. Ben şimdi bir ekranımı paylaşayım hemen. Şu an görebiliyor musunuz ekranımı?
Evet.
Tamam. Açılıyor tekrar. Tamamdır. Bugün aslında ben öncelikli olarak değişen dünya yapısında iş dünyasının geleceği, sektörün beklentileri, Türkiye'deki mevcut durumda yapılan çalışmalara dayalı bilgi aktaracağım. Sonrasında da yetkinlik tabanlı eğitimlerle, beceri eğitimleriyle istihdam edilebilir mezunlar ve yaşam boyu öğrenenler yaratma konusunda yükseköğretim kurumlarına nasıl destek verdiğimizden bahsetmek istiyorum. Aslında Samar da tabii ki girişi yaptı. O da çok detaylı bir şekilde bahsetti. Ben de yine devamında size farklı uygulamaları da göstereceğim. Dijital dönüşüm çeşitli sektörlerde hızlanma yolunda. Ben biraz öncelikle iş piyasasından da örnek vermek istiyorum aslında. İş dünyasının geleceği dijital, öyle değil mi? Dijitalleşme her iş alanı için geçerli oluyor. Covid-19 pandemisi de aslında bu dönüşümü hemen hemen her sektör alanında hızlandırmış durumda. Otomasyon, yapay zeka, dijital teknolojiler hayatımızda çok önemli rol oynuyor ve Covid'in de eklenmesiyle aslında bu süreç oldukça ivme kazandı. Microsoft verileri 2 yıllık dönüşüm oranına yalnızca 2 ayda ulaşıldığını bildiriyor ve bu hız aslında katlanarak da devam ediyor. Şimdi tabii dijital teknolojilerden daha fazla yararlanmak ve değer sunmak için de yeni yetkinliklere, becerilere, hizmetlere de günden güne daha fazla ihtiyaç oluyor. Artan otomasyon ve diğer dijital teknolojiler sayesinde ortaya çıkan yeni rol ve yeteneklerin toplum genelinde yayılması gerekliliği orta vadede de yine eğitim sisteminin yeniden düzenlenmesi ihtiyacını doğuruyor aslında. Aynı zamanda dijital dönüşüm içerisinde olan kurum ve kuruluşlarda teknolojinin insanla birlikte uyumlu çalışabilmesi için etkili bir yetenek yönetim stratejisi belirliyorlar ve bunu da oluşturmaya başladılar. Dönüşümde hızı kaybetmemek için sektör alanlarında belirli teknoloji ve veri becerilerine ihtiyaç var. Şimdi tabii ki bu slaytta gördüğünüz gibi aslında başta 23 milyonu oluşturan bulut bilişim, siber güvenlik, veri analizi ve yazılım geliştirme aslında temel alanlardan birkaçı. Bunlar yine Dünya Ekonomik Forumu'nun, Microsoft'un yaptığı veriler. 190 milyonluk bir iş kapasitesinin 149 milyonu tamamen belirtilen alanlarda yeni iş kollarının olacağı şeklinde öngörülüyor. Ve bu şekil 1'de de gösterildiği gibi 2025 yılına dek aslında bu becerilere odaklanmış yeni dijital işlerin ortaya çıkacağı öngörülüyor. Şu anda teknoloji ve veri bilimi alanlarında trend olan beceriler üzerindeki analizler, bizim de yaptığımız şirketlerle çalıştığımız analizler, insanların yazılım mühendisliği ve veri analizi becerilerini öğrenmeye son derece büyük bir ilgi duyduğunu gösteriyor. Bu alanlardaki trend olan becerilerin çoğu yine bulut bilişim, siber güvenlik alanlarında uygulansa da diğer alanlarda da oldukça farklı trend becerileri olduğunu görüyoruz aslında. Buna ek olarak aslında Gamze hocamız da belirtti. Hem üniversite genelinde ve Türkiye ile de paralel olarak aslında çok güzel bir data var. Şimdiye kadar Coursera'yı Türkiye'de yaklaşık 1 milyon öğrenen kullandı. Ve bizim de aslında aldığımız sonuçlarda yazılım mühendisliği, programlama gibi alanlara gerçekten ilginin çok fazla olduğu yönünde. Şimdi tabii burada da yine bu slaytta da baktığımız zaman iş alanındaki trend yetkinlikler, teknoloji alanındaki trend yetkinlikler ve veri bilimi alanındaki trend yetkinlikleri görebiliyoruz. Ve bunlara göre de aslında çok farklı alt alanlar var. Bunları da yine veri biliminde, teknoloji gibi alanlarda da bunları sıralayabiliriz. Çalışanların aslında yetkinlik hedefli yeniden eğitimi de şirketlerin dijital dönüşümün avantajlarının tamamına ulaşmalarına yardımcı oluyor. Coursera sonuçlar anketindeki öğrenci bulgularına bakıldığında en az bir beceride rekabetçi yeterlilik seviyesine ulaşan öğrencilerin gelecekteki bir iş rolü için hazır olduklarını söylemelerinin, mevcut iş rollerinde daha iyi olmalarının ve yeni öğrendiklerini iş yerinde uygulamalarının daha olası olduğunu görüyoruz. Hayat boyu öğrenme, çalışanlar için ekonomik hareketlilik ve aynı zamanda da büyümeyi geliştiriyor. Şimdi ben burada tabii ki biraz daha Türkiye verilerinden bahsetmek istiyorum. Daha önce belki bu raporları incelemiş olabilirsiniz, görmüş olabilirsiniz. Bu McKinsey'nin 2020 yılında Türkiye'deki dijital dönüşümle ilgili hazırladığı bir rapor. Otomasyon, yapay zeka, dijital teknolojilerin birçok sektörde işleri dönüştürerek daha çok sayıda yeni iş yaratması bekleniyor ve bu tabii Türkiye için de geçerli. Daha önce paylaştığımız veriler bizim tüm globalden aldığımız verilerdi. Burada da 2030 yılına kadar yaklaşık 33.3 milyonluk bir iş gücü ihtiyacı olması görülüyor. Otomasyon ve dijitalleşmenin etkisiyle 2030 yılına kadar 7.6 milyon işin kaybolma potansiyeli bulunuyor. Dijitalleşmenin yaratacağı verimlilik ve ekonomik büyüme üzerindeki etkilerle, sosyal değişimlerle birlikte 2030 yılına kadar da 8.9 milyon yeni iş oluşabileceğini görüyoruz. McKinsey raporunda 21.1 milyon kişinin hali hazırdaki mesleklerinde teknolojik yeniliklerden yararlanabilmek için teknolojik yetkinliklerini geliştirmesi gerektiğinden bahsediliyor. Gerek yeni yetkinlikler kazanma, gerekse de mesleki değişimi yapma gibi otomasyon ve dijitalleşmenin getirdiği etkiler, yeni etkilerde kendini 7.7 milyon çalışan üzerinde hissettirecek. Raporda yine 2030 yılına kadar tahmin edilen yetenek dönüşümünün gerçekleşmesi halinde de en büyük dönüşümün %63'lük oranla teknoloji yetkinlikleri, sosyal yetkinlikler %22 ile bunu takip edecek. Daha sonra da %7 oranında da ileri seviye bilişsel yetkinlikler bunu takip edecek. Ve diğer alanlara baktığımızda 2030 yılında da temel yetkinliklerin, fiziksel yetkinliklerin daha az kullanılacağı tahmin ediliyor. Bunlar tabii ki tamamen aslında projeksiyonlar. Ama ancak yetenek dönüşümünün hayata geçirilmesinde tabii ki farklı paydaşların sorumlulukları bulunuyor. Devlet kurumları, STK'lar, bireyler de hayat boyu öğrenmeyi aslında devreye sokuyor ve tabii ki eğitim kurumları. Eğitim modellerinin güncellenmesi, eğitim sistemlerinde yapılan değişiklikler, ileride gerekli olacak yetkinlikleri karşılamak için okul müfredatlarını birçok kurum yenilemeye çalışıyor. Üniversiteler ve eğitim kurumları seminerler, sertifika programları, çevrim içi eğitimlerle gelecekte ihtiyaç duyulacak yetkinliklere göre hazırlanmış, yetişkinlere uygun açık eğitim programlarıyla hayat boyu öğrenmeyi teşvik edecek programlar hazırlıyor. Yine ben de tabii ki değişen iş gücü ve beceri beklentilerinde Türkiye için yapılan aslında tabii ki birçok çalışma var. KPMG'nin de yayınladığı İK'nın geleceği raporunda yine çok güzel bir data var. Onu da paylaşmak istiyorum. Yeni gerçeklik raporu verileri doğrultusunda önümüzdeki 2 yıl içerisinde her 10 çalışandan 3'ünün mevcut yetkinliklerini, becerilerini geliştirme zorunluluğunun doğacağı söyleniyor. Yine bu dönem içerisinde mevcut beceri ve yetkinliklerini geliştiremeyen, değişimin gerisinde kalan her 10 çalışandan ikisinin de önümüzdeki 2 yıl içerisinde atıl kalacağından bahsediliyor. Şirketler salgının neden olduğu zorluklarla yüzleşmek için teknolojiye etkin bir şekilde entegre oluyorlar. Ancak bununla birlikte tabii kendi dönüşümlerini hızlandırmak, yatırımlarını yönetmek, talepleri karşılamak için de aslında bu değişikliği hayata geçirecek yetkinliklere ihtiyaç var, öyle değil mi? O yetenekler de mezunlarla karşılanmaya çalışılıyor. Ve öğrencilerin ve çalışanların da aslında farklı beceriler elde etmesini tamamen desteklemek gerekiyor. Aslında Samar'ın da bahsettiği gibi biraz kusura bakmayın sizler için belki tekrar niteliğinde olacak ancak biz bu sürece nasıl destek oluyoruz? Beceri eğitimleriyle yetkinlik gelişimine nasıl etki edebiliyoruz? Mevcut müfredatı çevrim içi öğrenmeyle zenginleştirmek, yalnızca öğrencileri işle ilgili becerilerle donatmak için değil, aynı zamanda bir öğrenme deneyimi olarak aslında sürece katkıda bulunmaya çalışıyoruz. Yükselen becerilerle, temel alanlara yönelik becerilerle, buna ek olarak Yetkinlik setleri, Samar'ın da bahsetmiş olduğu gibi dinamik kişiselleştirilmiş öğrenme programlarıyla beceri kazanımını hızlandırmaya çalışıyoruz. Öğrencilere dijital uygulamaların, yazılımların ustalığını artırmak, iş portföylerini oluşturmak için uygulamalı öğrenmeyi entegre etmeye çalışıyoruz. Ve arkada da aslında bunları yaparken tamamen Coursera yetkinlik grafiği çalışıyor. Yani yetkinlik verilerini destekleyen bir dizi makine öğrenme modeli de diyebiliriz. Yetkinlik grafikleri iç ve dış kaynaklardan veri alıyor ve yeni beceriler kazanılmasını ve çevre standartlarına uyum sağlamasını amaçlıyor. Dolayısıyla öğrenciler, kurumlar benchmark yapabiliyorlar. Ve bunları da tamamen yetkinlik geliştirme tablolarıyla takip edebiliyorlar. Rol, beceri alanı ya da ustalık düzeyine göre yetkinlik ilerlemesini bu şekilde takip edebiliyorlar. Ve kendilerini en önemlisi aslında sektördeki çalışanlarla kıyaslayabiliyorlar. Türkiye ortalamasında kıyaslayabiliyorlar. Global anlamda kıyaslayabiliyorlar. Bunlar da yine aslında bizim öğrencilere mesleklerinde başarılı olmalarını sağlayacak en çok talep gören bazı beceriler. Liderlik ve yönetim alanı, beşeri beceriler, kişisel gelişim ya da yükselen kariyer yolları olarak adlandırdığımız alanlarda öğrencilere yine farklı alanlarda farklı beceriler sağlamak. Buna ek olarak mesleki sertifikalar. Öğrenciler yine iş hayatına aslında yine en güzel şekilde mesleki sertifikalarla da hazırlanabiliyorlar. Direkt kaynağından Google, IBM, Salesforce, Facebook gibi firmalardan da bunları alabiliyorlar. Yapılan aslında araştırmalar da bizim Coursera'nın bugüne kadar çalıştığı şirketler, devlet kurumları ve diğer üniversitelerden elde ettiği ve buna ek olarak da 82 milyon kullanıcıdan ve 200 milyon kurs kaydından elde ettiği veriler doğrultusunda yayınladığı e-booklar oluyor, belli raporlar oluyor. Burada da bizim yine öğrenciler tarafında yaptığımız anketlerde çıkan sonuçlar öğrencilerin de online dijital içeriklerle harmanlanmış, geleneksel eğitim içeriklerini severek kullandığı şeklinde ortaya çıkıyor. Hangi dijital içeriklerin talep gördüğü, hangi uzmanlıkların gerekli olduğunun belirlenmesi ve anlaşılmasıyla Coursera eğitim kurumlarına ve üniversitelere içerik haritalandırması konusunda da destek olarak öğrencilerini geleceğin talep gören mesleklerine hazırlaması konusunda eğitim kurumlarıyla işbirliğine gidiyor. Ben burada sunumu sonlandırıyorum. Sorularınız varsa seve seve almak isterim.
Teşekkürler Sevcan Hanım.